Hi, thanks for joining me for Crafternoon. For today's project, I wanted to teach you how to weave a wall hanging. So for this project, you're going to need some cardboard and some yarns with different thicknesses and textures. So I'm using white and variegated, and some thick yarn that's quite fluffy. So this will add a lot of visual interest when you're looking at the wall hanging. You can also use raffia or sticks to weave in. You can use grass, anything that would add a lot of interest to the project. You can use also beads, you can add those in. So with the skills that I'm going to teach you, you can also adapt it so you can weave your own bookmarks or bracelets, or if you want to do something a little bigger, you could make yourself a woven bag. So I will teach you how to set that up and show you how to do some weaving. The first thing that we need to do is build a structure that will support the weaving. So we're basically going to build a loom out of the cardboard. So what you need to do is draw a straight line across the cardboard, and that's where your stitches will end. And then I've measured every ½ inch. And then with either an X-Acto knife or scissors, you want to cut all the way through. And you want to cut every ½ inch so it ends at that line. And just be very careful not to cut yourself. So after you have cut the tabs on the cardboard, then it's time to put in your yarn. Now the first one, you can put a knot in to stabilize your base. You can undo it at the end and then weave in the ends so you don't see the tails. But it's just, for now, it's just to stabilize that yarn. So you're going to go down to the bottom and you want to loop it and then come up the next tab. So that's what it will look like on that other side. Then up, go in, and then come up there. And you just want to continue all the way across. So after you have your frame, then you start putting in your yarn. Now here I've done a few rows just to show you how it's done. So basically you go under, over, under, over, under, over, all the way across. So every other one you go under, and the alternate ones you go over. And then on the next row, you do the opposite. So if you went under on this one, then on the next row you go over on this one. And on the edges, it's very important to keep the edges loose, because as you're weaving, if you have them tight, it's going to pull in your weaving. So you want to make sure that you keep the edge loose. And you kind of gauge how much yarn you need, but if you do run out and you need more yarn of the same color, that's okay. You can leave edges, like you can leave tails, and you can weave them in at the end. That is completely fine. You won't notice it once it's woven in. And you can weave it so that you're weaving in the end end that you cut, or as I've done here, I've made a makeshift shuttle. So I took a cardboard straw and I flattened it and I tied the yarn inside. You can use paper and you can use tape, anything that will hold, give the yarn a little more substance so that it's easier to weave it. And I also am hanging on to the excess yarn because some yarns knot very easily. And so in order to avoid having knots in my yarn as I'm weaving it, I'm weaving through like a big chunk of it as I'm holding it. So you want to just continue all the way down, and then when you're done with one color, then I'll show you how to switch to another color. So once you've finished one color, you're going to have tails that stick out. So if you get a needle, you can weave it in, you can stick it inside the other threads, the other yarn, and this will hide it. And then once it's hidden and you've gone far enough that it will be stable and it won't come undone, you can just cut that off. Once you've woven in your ends, then you can start your next color. So the last one that we did, we went over, so now we have to start under. So go over, under, all the way across. And then we're going to go over, under, under. And again, we're going to leave the edges loose so that it doesn't pull the yarn in. It doesn't pull in the frame. And as you can see, the texture of the yarn, the different colors, and the different textures add a lot of visual interest. So once you've finished the one color, then you can change to another one. So as you can see here, the last row you went over, so the next row you'll go under. We're going to go under, over, under, over, under, over, all the way across. And if you need to refer back to the previous row, you can use the last row to indicate if you need to go under or over. Now, weaving is actually quite time consuming, but it's actually very relaxing. So you can do this while you're watching TV, or if you listening to music or listening to a podcast. It's actually very relaxing to do. So the last one finished under, so this one, the next row, we're going to go over. And we're just going to continue doing this all the way down. After your weaving is done, you want to take it off the loom. So just slip it off. And then you want to put a hanger on. So just take your your yarn, and cut the amount of yarn that you need. So I'm just going to put it through the end ones, the end loops of the loom, and tie that together. And then this will be used as the hanger. And there you've completed your wall hanging. I hope you enjoyed that. Thanks for joining me.